Well, we are live. Yes, we are. We're up and running, guys. If you are watching this down the road, we've got a candidate interview coming at you, Mister. I guess I should call you Colonel Kiser. That's what everybody refers to you as, but. Got Mr. Kiser here running for Etowah County Sheriff. We're going to dive into talking through some topics. And if that's something that you might be interested in, then please keep on watching. As always with these, I am going to kind of let the crowd build. We'll talk about a few little things, and we'll get started here in about 4 minutes. Let me get that up on the screen. But thank you, sir, for coming in and giving us your time. I'm sure y'all are busy as we come down to May 24th. So
exactly,
you got other things going on today as well.
Well, Michael, I can answer to about anything. Going back to your question there, I get referred to a lot by different titles, but I'll answer to most of them.
Hey, you. Well, again, thank you for coming in and giving us your time, guys.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Well, this has been it's been an interesting experience, and I have learned a lot. I'm looking forward to learning something. I honestly, obviously, I know to slow down when I see the sheriff. But beyond that, I'd kind of like to learn a little bit more about the differences in the different law enforcement agencies and kind of what exactly is the role of the sheriff. We'll jump into that here in a few minutes, and talk through the stuff that that you want to talk to and why you think you'd make a good sheriff for Etowah County. So, guys. We did just mention May 24th. I want to beat that drum over and over and over again. May 24th is basically the election for these guys, everybody that's going to be voted on in those primaries, state representatives, Etowah County Commissioner, state school board, sheriff's office, and I think there may be one or two others. Basically, whoever makes it through the primary, that's going to end up being the only name on the ballot, and that's for both parties, which it could be confusing. It really just means that literally there's only one person from each party running for each of the positions. Am I saying that right? So if you don't get out and vote in the primary, you are missing out on the opportunity to vote for the sheriff, to vote for our state representatives, and vote for our school board and our county commissioners. So that's what it boils down to. May 24th, next Tuesday, you got to get out and cast your ballot.
You're exactly right, Michael. The primary is basically the general election.
Yeah, and it's I've talked to several folks. I think, unfortunately, the month of May is insanity. With all the school stuff going on. I think one of the schools is having their graduation on May the 24th. We got people getting into wedding season. I know we're spending the weekend doing soccer stuff, closing out. It is a hard time for folks to pay attention and to spend the time that they should as voters to get educated on the candidates. Which is part of why I'm doing this and why I will plug. Head over to advancedetowah.com, go to the Election 22 tab, who's running. I've got the candidate profiles on there, and that's got all the information, links to websites, to Facebook pages. Everybody has been nice enough to take the time to answer some questions, so thank you for that. That's all about just trying to make it easy for you guys as voters, because ultimately, when we talk about leadership issues in our county, the true leadership of our county boils down to us. And I don't mean me. I mean, all the voters. And if we don't cast our ballot, then we're losing out on the opportunity to flex that leadership and let people know and communicate what it is that we want. So, all right, I see the timer is over. Guys, if one or two comments, just let me know that the audio is good, and we're going to dive into this. And I will jump through looking at some questions here. Let me swap this over real quick, and we'll get started. So again, guys, I'm here with Leonard Kiser, Colonel Kiser, running for sheriff. First off, thank you so much for being willing to serve our community. As I've said to all the people that are running for office, as I've dipped my toe into politics, I have a newfound respect for all of you, and it is definitely, and particularly from the LEO, the law enforcement, first responder side of things, an extra helping of appreciation and thanks for your service and also military service. So thank you for being here. And I want to just start real quick with tell me kind of who you are, the 2-minute version. You've been some places, done some things, so I'm sure you could go a lot further than 2 minutes. And guys, go check out his bio. It's not hard to find. You can find it on our website, and I'm sure on his stuff out there. But just give me a quick. Who is Colonel Kiser?
Spent 39 years in the military, Guard, Army Reserve, and active Army. 39 years, 3 months, and 12 days total.
Not that you're counting.
Yeah. Everybody. You remember yours, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it's on your DD-214 also, But also I had more than 23 years in law enforcement. I was deputy sheriff for approximately 3 years, a municipal officer about 6 or 7 months, and close to 20 years working for the state in 2 different agencies as an investigator.
Okay. All right. Born and raised in.
I actually grew up in Cherokee County. Went to Spring Garden High School and I went in the Army 2 weeks after I finished high school.
All right. Well, so you've been some places, been around the world, I'm sure you got a few good stories from that. So
I commanded a special forces group for 3.5 years, and I was commander of the Joint Special Operations Task Force in the Horn of Africa.
Ooh,
so did some good things.
That's a fun spot. Got to go play with some counter-piracy stuff myself.
We also did the Horn. Along with the Horn of Africa, I had Yemen also.
Yemen. There's another fun place. So, all right, well, guys, hit that like and please give us a share as we jump into this and get rolling. I will be reading through the comments, and we'll see, depending on the questions, we may bring some of that stuff up. A little different format than I've done some of these other interviews with the sheriffs. Because some of the topics, we're going to niche down into, obviously things that relate directly to the law enforcement side of things, the sheriff's office. But ultimately, our whole conversation is about business growth, business development. Like we've talked about, we don't need more jobs in Etowah County. We need better jobs. We need higher paying jobs. We need to raise the median household income of our community. Otherwise, a lot of the other issues that we have really become more and more irrelevant, in my opinion. It's just not worth talking about. But let's jump in. I think, and we talked about this before we jumped on. This is going to be some educational stuff for me. So what exactly is the role of the county sheriff? What are the tasks that the county sheriff is supposed to do? What's kind of the difference between, say, the county sheriff and, say, a police chief? Can you talk to me and educate me a little bit on that?
Sure. The sheriff is kind of unique in the southeastern United States. The sheriff is a constitutional officer, and he's empowered in the Constitution along with some state statutes. He's got a vast amount of power. All law enforcement officers in Alabama, municipal, county, and state, are empowered based on the sheriff's authority. He's an officer of the court.
Okay.
He's responsible for the court operations. He's responsible for everything in the jail. He's responsible for everything that deputies do. All the operations of the sheriff's office is his total responsibility.
Okay. He's
also responsible for the elections too, along with the clerk and probate judge.
Wow.
They're the three people that's charged with their responsibilities for the election.
All right. Interesting. So let's dive into and we'll jump in to again some more education piece. You hear a lot of talk about a drug problem in Etowah County. Again, I'm not as informed as I probably should be. Obviously, I'm not tied up in the drug culture around here, other than keeping Walgreens pretty well funded. But talk to me about what do you view as the main legal issues that we face, in our county. Like what's kind of going on in, countywide that maybe people need to be aware of.
Well, our principal issues are our drug problem and corruption problems.
Okay.
We are Etowah County is noted among law enforcement as being a manufacturer and distribution center. I recently had a narcotics officer tell me, meth being manufactured in Etowah County and shipped to Atlanta. When you're getting into that league, it's kind of out of control.
Huh.
And the drug problem affects the economy,
right.
The local economy. It affects corruption. It leads to the things that normally go along with it: illegal gambling, prostitution, and various and sundry offenses
right.
that arise out of those.
So what are we what are we doing to combat that? What should we be doing to combat that? And what do you and we'll jump right into kind of tying everything to business and business growth and business development. What do you view as the impact of all of that on just the overall success and growth of Etowah County? So what can we be doing about it?
Well, we have a drug pandemic in this county. There are so many people using drugs, and not just selling and trafficking drugs, but there's so many using them that it affects labor surveys for industry. It's not just how many people are available for work.
Right.
It's when I hire them, will they show up for work the second week? And we've got a problem with that. According to the information that I continually get from employers, I really don't have that big a problem hiring people. It's just after I hire them, they don't work out. They don't show up. They won't come to work, so the drug issue is it affects everybody. It affects the extended family. It's just it's a pandemic.
Huh. Well, so what actions what have we got going on that we're, how are we trying to combat that? Or how can we combat that more?
Well, I'm not sure that anything's being done right now, but you certainly can combat it. Working drugs it's not rocket science.
Okay.
You first have to want to get the job done, and then you just have to have a plan and execute. We working drugs, you can do it from many standpoints.
Okay.
Most people are aware of rolling people over for
Right.
information.
Right.
You catch a small fish and you
Okay.
you use him to catch a bigger fish. Well, that's part of it, but it also involves huge amounts of surveillance. You don't have to have these informants.
Gotcha.
You use surveillance and develop your information. There are, with today's technology, there's so much information out there.
Gotcha.
You can use the data that's available. You can. It's absolutely easy.
So I'm gonna, and we'll get off the drug issue here in just a second. But since it's my show, and I control when we end, then I want to throw out or kind of understand. Give me some perspective, because obviously a lot of what I personally would understand about the drug culture and how do we fight that, the things. I mean, a lot of that is what I'm seeing on movies, seen in TV, and all that kind of stuff. And then I try to filter that with my military experience with, okay, obviously the reality's somewhere here. And you talk about if we're manufacturing and shipping to Atlanta, are we talking about, are there major organizations, that are overseeing, is this a nationwide organization? How does that kind of work in the drug world? If you're talking about, because, or is it somebody in Etowah County said, hey, I can start cooking meth and I'm going to create a logistics chain to get it into Atlanta. I'm assuming that there is some, hey, there's a pretty big, a little bit bigger operation. Is that what we're facing in Etowah County?
It's a lot of both.
Okay.
And where corruption exists at the local level,
okay,
it will soon be major corruption with organized crime involvement.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and I kind of get at that too, because that was obviously tons and tons of accusations that went out with the rendering plant when that started, and one of the major things that kind of scared a lot of people and tells me Pilgrim's Pride that was coming in here. I mean they had they had people, employees, management, leadership that had pled guilty to bribery and all that kind of stuff. That kind of seems like their MO as a company. Again, we don't have any evidence of who's corrupt or any of that kind of stuff, but that was a multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation, coming in and trying to set up shop here, and I just trying to kind of put that in some perspective for me on what's going on around here.
Well, one thing, it was like we were talking about data that's available.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this, who's connected to who. I would encourage people to look at the Secretary of State's website.
Okay.
And so you can see who donates to people's campaign.
Okay.
And how much they contribute. And you can do record search and see who the drug traffickers are and whose campaign they're contributing to.
Okay.
It's a matter of record.
Okay.
And I would encourage people to look at it and see for themselves.
Okay. Well, interesting. All right. Well, we'll get off drugs, and I guess I'll leave it with say no to drugs. I don't. That's definitely something you hear a lot. A lot of people talk about, and I think there's a lot of people that that's just something kind of you hear and you don't fully understand, I'd like to understand it a little bit more.
There's so many families that have been impacted in this community and in the county. Very few people haven't had someone in their,
right,
as a minimum in their extended family, or immediate friends that hadn't been impacted by drugs.
Well, and I'll finish the drug conversation off with kind of a shout out to one of our board members for Advanced Etowah and a guy that I've gotten to know through this fight, Trent Thrasher, his wife Jenny Thrasher. They own Clinic 5 Addiction Recovery, and I know they're up to their knees in trying to help people recover, and it's a pretty neat. I didn't know anything about it until I got to know them. And
yes, I'm aware of their program. Yeah.
So, yeah, guys. So Clinic 5. If you want to know more, or if you've got an issue in your family, then definitely check them out. They're doing some pretty amazing things. So, all right, let's jump on into some of our other issues. We started with kind of talking about what does the sheriff do. One of our foundational things is the proper government structure that we have or don't have in Etowah County. From the functioning, the legislative side of things, we've talked about. The airport authority and the qualifications to be on the airport authority, the IDA structure, how all these boards, how everybody interacts. What are your thoughts from the legal standpoint of how does the legal system in Etowah County, is the structure a good structure? What could be improved? What works, what doesn't, as we go, obviously a very common discussion is all the municipalities. So, I mean, you've got local law enforcement in each of the municipalities, and then you've got a sheriff. How does that structure? Is it good, bad? What could be done that would be better? Thoughts on that?
Sure. One of the principal things that most people don't understand about our local government and state government in Alabama is the Alabama legislature controls practically everything. The county commissions have almost zero authority except to distribute monies that's appropriated by the state legislature. Cities have a little bit of taxing authority and revenue production authority that the legislature has granted, but it is very limited. Alabama doesn't have home rule. It is rule from Montgomery. And given that, as far as it applies to law enforcement, the state legislature controls everything basically, and they control. They create the municipalities.
Right.
The legislature created the counties, and they control them. Local legislation can be used effectively. It's a great tool. I hope you're aware of local legislation and how it works.
I've learned a thing or two. I definitely am far more informed after 2 years of I actually did a video. We were talking about how how a bill becomes a law. Way back when we're trying to get legislation. Still, obviously, a great deal that I don't know and don't understand.
Right. Well, for the listeners, basically the way it works is a local act is a law that applies only to a specific jurisdiction. And if the local legislative delegation agrees unanimously to the contents of an act, every other legislator in the state will vote for it.
Yep.
Because it's total agreement, and they want to be able to do the same thing in their
Right.
counties.
Right.
So that's the way local legislation works. If every legislator agrees to it, it's basically going to become a local act. That local act will only apply to the jurisdiction that they represent.
Okay. Okay. We'll move through, and we'll get into some more specific questions. There are a couple. There's one in particular, and we'll dive into some of the key issues. Let's jump into something that wasn't necessarily directly related with the rendering plant that we ended up talking through. But the first responder and the awareness is a lot of us started paying a lot more attention, and particularly in the city of Gadsden, you talk about the shortage of firefighters, and the issues with law enforcement, and I mean the nationwide issues that we're having with law enforcement. What are your kind of your thoughts on where we sit in Etowah County, and what can we do to try and remedy those issues?
Okay, the law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, they've traditionally been paid, minimal salaries,
Mm-hmm.
and it's particularly in the southeastern United States.
Mm-hmm.
You go to New York City, a patrolman will start off over $100,000 a year. But we have never put the emphasis on qualified and professional law enforcement and firefighters like we should have.
Okay.
You attract people to a job by salaries and benefits.
Right.
You keep them on a job by working conditions and morale. But you have to attract them with a salary. And if you have a low salary like we do in Etowah County, you're a training ground for other law enforcement agencies. We've had numerous officers from Sheriff's Department go to Gadsden PD because they make more money. We've had officers go to Jacksonville. We've had numerous officers go to Oxford PD.
Okay.
We're talking, Oxford, everyone knows where it's located. They pay officers between $24 and $25 an hour.
All right.
No, we're not even in the same league.
So what can the as the sheriff, who sets those salaries and how does that work?
The salaries are set by the county commission.
Okay.
The sheriff's salary is set by the legislative.
Okay.
By legislative delegation.
Okay.
Through a local act if they want to, or a state law.
Okay.
There's a minimum sheriff's salary and there's a minimum deputy's salary, but nobody can make a living on a minimum deputy's salary. Right. Even Etowah County is paying more than that. But it's more or less, showmanship.
Gotcha.
And but
So we need to talk to the county commissioners and demand that they pay more. Is that
exactly.
if we think that they should be paid more?
People need to support raises for the detention deputies and for the patrol deputies and everybody that works at the sheriff's office. The county government, most people don't realize that since the state has started collecting internet sales tax,
right,
the purse is huge.
Okay.
There's money available to pay people competitive salaries.
So one of the things, and maybe you can explain this. I've learned that if the county commissioners do a raise, can they do a sheriff's department specific raise, or do they have to do raises across?
They can do raises any way they want to.
Okay.
They have to pay for them. That's what the county commission's job is. The county commission receives basically the revenue that the state legislature says this is what you get. Then they have to distribute that based on their judgment, and to operate all the offices in the county.
Okay. Looking through the comments. All right. Okay. So anything more on that retention and any other ideas on what I guess Right. So it sounds like kind of the basic retention issue. I mean, and I get. I mean, as a military guy, which is the only frame of reference I have, I understand that, the quality of life that you have, the culture. I mean, we've had a fighter pilot shortage now for a number of years, and they've thrown some really big dollars to try and retain folks. And a lot of my buddies, as much as they love flying fighter planes, the culture is not what what they would prefer it to be, and no amount of money will keep them there. But if that's you talk about how is the culture in our local law enforcement, if you don't mind talking about that, are we really kind of, the dollars are so low that it really does kind of boil down to
it's more a condition of low morale in the sheriff's office.
Okay.
There's numerous problems. The jail is a wreck.
Okay.
And I've had it described to me by officers that work there as a jungle.
Okay.
Understaffed. It's there's been over a 300% turnover in employees in the jail in the last 3 years.
Okay.
The operational deputies, there's been over 100% turnover in them in the last 3 years.
Well, obviously, the Etowah County Jail has been a hotbed topic for a number of years around here, and so as that's kind of one of your key infrastructure pieces in the sheriff's office. What do we need to know and understand, or what do you think we need to know and understand? How do we fix our jail problem? How do we fix what's going on? What do we really need to know?
The first thing is discipline, and stop using law enforcement and the jail as a revenue production tool.
Okay.
Enforce discipline in the jail among employees and inmates.
Okay.
Until you have professionalism, you can't ever progress. And one thing I'll say, the 60 days in was one of the worst things that's ever happened to law enforcement in Etowah County.
Okay.
It portrayed, I call it the Etowah County Jerry Springer show, because that's what it was. It was nothing to, the intent of the show was to show how dumb and redneck people in Alabama and Etowah County are.
Okay.
If I'm elected sheriff, there will never be an Etowah County Jerry Springer show.
Well, so I will confess my ignorance, and this is how uninformed I am. I think I remember hearing something about that, but have been too busy to really pay attention. So I'll let you guys go look that up and dig in. I'm sure there's plenty of folks in the community that are far more knowledgeable than me about what went on or what that is. Yes. So we'll move on. So anything else with the jail in terms of infrastructure and.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted, that my intent is, I want to professionalize the whole sheriff's department. It is not a professional organization now. It's based on political patronage. I want to eliminate political patronage in the sheriff's office. No public employee should have to be loyal to an elected official in order to keep their job, or to be promoted, or to keep from being fired. Political patronage is simply wrong. It promotes corruption, and that's the simplest way to put it. It promotes corruption.
Okay. Well, so we'll unfortunately, I don't know enough about exactly, what all is going on with that. Obviously, I haven't had any, and understandably, I haven't had any of the current, Leos on to talk about what's going on, and I doubt I probably would or should.
Let me give you a little background.
Okay.
Do you know what the qualifications are to be sheriff in Etowah County?
I do not.
you have to be 18 years old, lived in the county for 1 day, and not have been convicted of a felony.
Okay.
I think that's pretty ridiculous for a job that last year paid $152,000.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. I will also, along with eliminating political patronage, I will be encouraging the local legislative delegation, if I'm elected, to set standards for sheriff's candidates. There's a few counties in Alabama that do have more qualifications that were created by local legislation.
Okay. Well, that's I think that's worth, that's got me intrigued and worth diving into and trying to get to know and understand more about. So let me jump over into one of the questions. And while we're talking about some specific topics here, I'm going to sum up. Basically, there was a question about medical marijuana. And I guess I'm sure there's plenty of people that want to know, and what are your thoughts on marijuana? The specific question was, how would you resolve an arrest of a Etowah County citizen who has marijuana they're using to treat pain and other physical, emotional problems that the medical field refuses to help them with? And I think expanding that, that's a little specific, but I'm sure people would like to know, what are your thoughts on marijuana, legalization of marijuana, all of that kind of stuff? Because obviously that's a big thing going on in our country right now.
It is. And I don't have an issue with medical marijuana. It's in, if it's being used and prescribed by a qualified medical doctor for a terminally ill patient, I've got no issue with it, because I've seen people and I know that were terminally ill, and I say whatever helps them, that's what they should have.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts on
It's got to be highly regulated.
Yeah.
But I support terminally ill patients having anything they need.
So expanding that out, obviously the rest of our country, or plenty of other areas in our country are talking about, and have legalized. We'll talk about Colorado and just what are kind of your thoughts on, in general, on what's kind of going on with the marijuana legalization and
marijuana is. I worked drugs for many years. I worked undercover predominantly for 4 years, and I know marijuana is definitely a gateway drug.
Okay.
There's no other way around it. It is, and it's all dependent upon the individual. Most people that use drugs started out with marijuana. Okay. And it's just a simple fact. But, as to whether it's legalized, that's a decision for the legislature in Alabama to make.
Gotcha. Okay.
I do not support the legalization of marijuana.
Okay.
I support medical marijuana.
Gotcha.
For terminally ill patients.
Okay. Well, let's. I'm gonna because another hotbed topic, obviously, in our country and our state right now is gun control. Kind of like to get just some thoughts on where
I love it.
What? Well, I mean that's.
I love the Second Amendment.
Okay. Well, and I mean in the state of Alabama, if you want to get elected, or at least in Etowah County, permit, permit requirements, and particularly as you talk about concealed carry and all that kind of stuff. You got a few thoughts on that? Because I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's interested.
I think I was one of the first candidates in Alabama that was talking about concealed carry, and the legislature. Most folks knew that the legislature was going to have to do something because of political feedback. But in typical fashion, what I supported was simply making the permit free. The permit is a useful tool for law enforcement. That's really undisputable. But having to pay for your Second Amendment rights is wrong.
Okay.
In my opinion. So what the legislature did was created a whole new concealed carry permit act, which created a bunch of other things other than just you can carry concealed without a permit. Folks need to go in and read all the stuff that was put in it.
Okay.
It was the legislature tried to please everybody, and usually when you try to please everybody, you don't get it right. But they created a lot of problems in it because if a law enforcement under the new act, if a law enforcement officer requests you to surrender your weapon, you have to do it. It's in the code, and that just creates a ridiculously dangerous situation,
right,
for law enforcement officers. I mean, they should have listened to input from law enforcement officers. There was nothing wrong with the pistol permit the way it was. It just should have been free.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think that'd be a fun, much longer conversation.
Everybody should own a gun and be qualified to use it.
All right.
It's I saw an interesting thing that a friend sent me recently. It said when the founding fathers passed the Second Amendment, they weren't just coming back from a hunting trip. They were just finishing a revolution.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, I know that's a hotbed topic, and I'm sure something that folks would like to know and understand. Your thoughts. But I think if you were running for sheriff in Etowah County and you were wanting to crack down on guns, you'd be running a tough race, especially as a Republican. So, all right, let's shift gears just a hair. And guys, I'm seeing, don't think I'm dismissing. Well, I am dismissing some of the questions that are in there. I'm going to throw out to how folks are campaigning and asking questions about what people are saying on the internet, and some of the campaign stuff. Guys, go ask them directly. Reach out if you want to get more information. This conversation that I'm trying to have is really kind of more a much broader, much more general conversation. Because we don't have a whole lot of time. We've been going for 45 minutes now, and there's just a couple other things I want to talk about. So guys, I've made it easy, not hard to find any of the candidates, and I know all of them would be more than happy. So hit them up, ask them questions, and they can give you answers directly. Okay, so rendering plant. I want to hit on real quick, and we talked before we started, and you seem pretty open to share some thoughts, but I do want to put the caveat that I don't really expect the law enforcement side of things, particularly a sheriff or a chief of police for that matter, to necessarily weigh in on the political issue of should a rendering plan have come or should it not have come. But I am curious to get your perspective, particularly as a guy, living having lived here for a few years, and been in this area, what was your perspective on what has occurred with this rendering plant issue, and what do you feel like the county, the community, the citizens have changed in any way? What are your thoughts, I guess I'd say in general on this, the whole craziness that was or is and is continuing to be the rendering plant?
Well, just basically, since my entire experience in Etowah County, there's never been a lot of cooperation between the county government, the city government overall.
Okay.
And that inhibits everything. Lack of cooperation, no compromise on issues. To be successful, people have to talk. They have to develop a joint plan to accomplish goals. Maybe everybody doesn't agree on what the goals should be,
right?
But the ones we do agree on, we should be able to set a roadmap to get where we want to be. And our map should be to make the county progress. And like you were saying, better jobs that pay more money. We want to keep our kids and grandkids here.
Right.
We want a job where they can be successful in Etowah County. And I don't see why we can't have that. We have, in our governments now, from the Congress on down, we've got no compromise. And I realize, some things cannot be compromised.
Right.
You can understand those issues, but most things can be compromised. Years ago, our Congress, was recognized worldwide as being a place where compromise could be accomplished. Now we can't accomplish anything, and I think that has inhibited Etowah County also. If we get people to work together,
okay,
that's the first step in accomplishing any goal.
Okay,
you cannot be pulling against each other. Competition is great in many things, but competition between government agencies doesn't work.
Gotcha. Well, I can't say that I disagree with you on that at all, especially when those government agencies are literally right next door to each other.
Right, and we have to be open about it. It shouldn't be a secret about it. There shouldn't be any secrets. Total transparency. It's one of my things in the sheriff's office, the sheriff's discretionary account. If I'm elected, anybody, anytime can come up there and see how much money is there and see how it's been spent.
Okay. Well, and let me, as you speak about discretionary spending, I've run into a few folks that are extremely frustrated that we have this concept of discretionary spending, and not just in the sheriff's office, but in other offices. What are your thoughts there on that concept that if somebody's saying, hey, discretionary funds, like why does that exist, and why is that?
I think discretionary funds should be eliminated. It's the responsibility of the legislative delegation to fund the operations of government. And they want, the legislature in Alabama demands to keep that. And if they demand to keep it, they should be responsive to the public to provide the funds to provide the services that the public wants.
Okay. And guys, if y'all, if you're not super familiar, because I obviously more than willing and have admitted I'm learning a great deal, especially in local politics. This discretionary, what I'm talking about. Most of our elected officials around here have got a discretionary pot of money, and they solely choose how they spend that money. And I'm not saying that's all bad. I'm sure, there's chunks of that money that gets spent on good things. But I think what you're getting at is the point is that, that
if you're using it responsibly, it's good. But most officials don't use it. They use it to campaign with.
And that's, yes, that certainly, there's a huge vulnerability, and that's kind of what a lot of what I, as I'm looking at all this, and we talk about government structure, and are we even structured for, that very concept does seem to me like it is a huge vulnerability to have something like that occur, where you can use those dollars for, why not throw that into the regular budgeting process? If those dollars need to go to certain things, then decide that as a body. So I mean that makes some sense to me. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn. But guys, if you don't really understand the discretionary dollars, the one thing I will say that really irritates me is when I hear elected officials say, "Hey, thank you so and so for giving us the money, for this," and it kind of it sounds as if they wrote a check out of their own bank account, and I think it's missed on us. It kind of comes across, that's not your money. That's the taxpayers' money that you're spending. So, I don't know. It's a good discussion. I think one that all of us as voters need to kind of understand. And again, that goes back to understanding more about how our government actually operates, especially at the local level, or figuring out how to take, how to go put your hand out and get some of that discretionary dollars and use it for yourself. Okay. Well, I think we've covered most of what I wanted to cover. Let's circle back around to your viewpoint of building an attractive business environment in our community. That we talk about recruiting business. I'm a big proponent to say, like, we really need to focus first on how do we grow what we already have, and create an environment that does that. And then, because if the people that are either here don't want to grow, or people that want to start businesses don't want to start businesses here, then why are we even talking about recruiting businesses in? That doesn't really jive in my head, because there's probably a reason why the first two don't want to do what. So what are your thoughts? Again, very general question here. How do we build that better business environment, and particularly, obviously, putting the sheriff's hat on? What do we really need to do to build that better business environment to raise, to get better companies in here?
Well, from a law enforcement perspective, the first thing that businesses look for is that the law enforcement agencies, the local agencies, are professional, that they provide professional law enforcement services to the community. And it all filters down from that. The drug issue, getting back to the drug issues, that when that labor survey is done, if there's a major drug problem, employees are not there. It's just it's a lose-lose situation. No business wants to be located where corrupt or unprofessional law enforcement is, because it creates all kinds of issues for the business's security and their corruption problems.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. I'll give you, the chance to kind of throw out there your final thoughts, as we wrap up. Where can people go? You're talking about corruption and stuff like that. Where can folks go to find out more, to get more facts about understanding that kind of stuff? you know, and we've dealt with it on the rendering side of things as a perspective. A lot of people talk about corruption. You know, a lot of it is, it's hard to prove, you know, but it's one of those that everybody kind of knows. Well, there's some of that. It's got to be going on somewhere. So what do you kind of, you know, so wrap that up. Final thoughts on your campaign and what you want to do as sheriff.
Okay. You can go to my website, www.kiserforsheriff.com.
Okay.
Read my background. Read. I've got a couple of master's degrees. I've been pretty successful in every career that I've had, and I'm a leader. I've always been a leader, and I develop leaders, and that's the way I've always done business. So, if you want a professional for sheriff who will professionalize the Etowah County Sheriff's Department, an agency that you can rely on, be proud of at the response times, and law enforcement will meet the needs of the county, I would encourage you to vote for me.
All right.
And I appreciate everyone's support.
All right. Well, guys, so if you can't remember that web address, which I think probably pretty easy to find, but you can also go to advancedetowah.com, go to our candidate profiles. It's all linked up there, and find them. Guys, with some of the comments that are on there, and I know there's a lot of chitter chatter on the web back and forth. You know, as both you and Sheriff Horton, you know, are campaigning. I'm going to say this, I don't want to get stuck in the middle of some of the campaign comments and questions and stuff going back and forth. I'm here to, you know, talk about and listen and understand, and learn more about who each of these candidates are, and what they have to say to me, you know, and particularly to educate me with what they think I need to know and understand. So, you know, I'll leave some of that other stuff. Again, go back, hit up the candidates themselves and get some answers for sure. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today. We'll have Sheriff Horton on later on Friday at 9. We'll be getting that out and sitting down and talking with him as well and getting his perspective. And I look forward, you know, to learning, you know, some more stuff. But guys, you know, I can't beat the drum enough. May 24th, you need to turn out. Go vote in the primaries. Go get educated. Understand what's going on. I've learned this much that I had no idea about in the last couple of years with doing all this render and plant stuff that has made me realize there's this much stuff that I really wish I could learn, and there's a lot more to it. So, you know, unfortunately, as voters, I think we in America, and I will go as far as America, we've become very susceptible to one-liners and headlines and not really getting in depth and learning and understanding exactly what's going on. So, you know, as best you can with the time you have available, go do your research, learn and understand, and make an educated decision, because at the end of the day, where our community is, where it goes, what's going on in this community, the only responsibility is actually ours, and the accountability comes down to us as voters. We can't blame him. We can't blame any other elected official because, well, we put him there. So that's my 2 cents. And guys, I thank you for watching, and hope you got something out of it. And we'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.